why is it so important to tell the truth?
So truth telling is really interesting to me because over 25 years of seeing patients with addiction who get into recovery from addiction, the theme that comes up again and again and again is that they have to tell the truth because it's central to their recovery. And if they lie, even about little things, they're going to relapse. And when they're in their addiction, they lie about a lot of things, not just hiding their use, but sort of things that don't even matter. I'll never forget one patient said to me, yeah, when I was using, if I was at Burger King and a friend called me, I'd say I was at McDonald's. If I was at McDonald's, I'd say I was at Burger King. He said, it didn't make any sense, but I just developed the lying habit. And so part of being in recovery is to stop lying. And what I do in that chapter is really try to dissect out what it is about truth telling that makes us better able to abstain, to delay gratification, and just to live better lives. And what I conclude is that, number one, telling the truth fosters real intimacy between people, which again is counterintuitive because you think when people know our sort of inner struggles, they'll run for the hills, but in fact, the opposite is true. They come closer. But telling the truth also importantly allows us to tell the stories of our lives in a way that adheres closer to reality. And the reason this is so important is because the way that we tell our autobiographical narratives is not just the way that we understand our experiences, but also shapes future behavior. So for example, if we tell stories in which we're always the victim and never take responsibility for our actions, going forward, we will continue to be the victim. And the way that we tell that story actually will predict that phenomenon. Whereas if we tell stories where we can really elucidate both the ways that we've been victimized, but also the ways that we've victimized others, for example, or at least contributed to the problem, we're more likely to be able to come up with solutions that help us make better decisions going forward. The other thing that is really fascinating to me is that, you know, as we talked about, addiction is probably this disconnect between the reward pathways in the brain, in the lower brainstem, and the prefrontal cortex, our big gray matter area behind our foreheads. And truth telling, I hypothesize, actually helps activate the prefrontal cortex, our storytelling part of our brain, and helps us reconnect that prefrontal cortex with our lower brainstem and with our reward pathways, so that those parts of the brains are talking to each other again, which is so fundamental for recovery, because we don't want our lizard brain to be dictating, you know, what we're doing.
Right. And it's, I guess, another way of honoring our brokenness.
That's right.
It's a way of saying, this is who I am. And
Right.
the other thing that we talked about earlier was that we talked about how perhaps the addict has the psychology of, this world isn't exciting enough for me. And I guess that lying is a way of reinforcing those pathways, because if suddenly he's at Burger King when he's actually in McDonald's, then it's like a cycle. Yeah. That's
true. And yet, if you think about, if you want to do something really hard with your day to day, don't tell a single lie, because we're all liars. We're natural liars. And to really go through your whole day and not lie about anything is really challenging and hard. So ironically, if you want a challenge, try to be a truth teller, because you'll be a rare bird. But you're absolutely right about this kind of being truth telling also, and this is really important for this day and age. It allows us to be more authentically connected with our real selves and our real in the moment experiences, which also makes us feel more real. And in this day of social media and curated online profiles, this becomes really vital, because what so many of us are falling prey to is curating these online personas that are not anything like our real selves. And of course, we have this very narcissistic culture which promotes that. So we end up experiencing what's called in psychiatry derealization or depersonalization, which is a very scary feeling that, like, you're living in the matrix, that I'm not real or the world's not real. And lying can really contribute to this feeling, whereas telling the truth, even when it hurts, can really reconnect us to ourselves and make us feel real in the world, which I think is especially important right now.